So why are we here today?
Well, what we have here is Russians protesting against the Russian invasion of Ukraine. These are people in the opposition to Putin. Everybody talks about how the Russians are brainwashed. These people aren't brainwashed. These are Russian citizens, Russian emigres who are saying that Putin's murderous war in Ukraine is not okay. That's a very important thing to be seeing right now.
You've been surprised by the size of the crowds who come out today?
Well, I've been told by the organizers the crowds are actually much bigger than they expected. And in fact, they were hoping that the road would be closed so that they could actually get everybody congregated here. So this really tells you how upset everybody is, how upset real Russian people are about the murder that's going on in Ukraine right now.
And what would you say to the average person on the street watching at home? You know, what are they looking at right now in terms of what this signifies for the Russian position of Russians abroad?
Well, I think what this tells you is that Putin's brainwashing doesn't work outside of his own propaganda bubble inside Russia. These people can read the truth, they can know the truth, and they know the truth is horrific. What Putin is doing is criminal, murderous, and disgusting, and they don't want it in their name.
And how important would you say the role of protests like this, albeit outside of Russia, are in terms of the broader debate and eventually deposing Putin?
Well, the stereotype is that Russians support Putin and the West is opposed to him, and here we're trying to, with Russians, break that stereotype, and I think it's very important, and it's a very clear message.
And how about being outside the Russian embassy, you know, to host this protest outside a place, you know, that's been such a, if you look back through the Cold War, centre of Russian influence in the UK, and to almost fight back against that is quite significant.
Yeah, well, I think this is the place to do it. This is the official seat of the Russian government in the UK, and needs to be. These people, I hope they're looking out the window right now.
Do you think this sort of protest will translate to greater resistance or attempts to depose Putin back home in Russia?
Well, I think every little bit where people see in Russia that Russians don't support Putin is very important.
And what would you say to if somehow a Russian comes across this video, what would you say to them about what this signifies about the war and the direction their country is traveling?
Well, it's if they oppose Putin, they're not by themselves. There's a hell of a lot of people who feel the same way.
And where does this movement outside of Russia go next? Now that we've had this big day today.
Well, I hope that other Russian emigres and Russians who are living outside of Russia will do the same thing in other cities. Yeah. So my name is Bill Browder. I'm head of the Global Magnitsky Justice Campaign. I've spent the last 13 years fighting against Putin.
And how does the campaign, can you tell us a little bit about your relationship of the campaign with today's events?
So my lawyer, a Russian lawyer named Sergei Magnitsky, was murdered by the regime after uncovering a massive corruption scheme. He was murdered 13 years ago, and I've spent the last 13 years trying to get justice, which has led to something called the Magnitsky Act, which has been passed in the UK and 34 other countries. And I'm here speaking at the demonstration along with other Russian opposition figures to express my absolute outrage at Putin's murder in Ukraine.
And ever since, in those 13 years, have you seen opposition from Russians on this scale, or is this a new thing?
I think it's absolutely unprecedented, the number of Russians who, may have been upset about Putin but didn't want to come out on the street. But what he's doing in Ukraine just makes it requires people to come out on the street.
And that makes you more hopeful for your work, I assume, going forward.
Well, I work with Western governments trying to contain Putin, but what we need more than anything is Russians trying to contain Vladimir Putin.